so weird. It's not like trying to adjust at all. Whatever. Here we go. Let's try this. Keep doing it. You got it. You got it. There we go. By the way, kids, that's how you do it. Learned that in freshman year of college. Trick works on pretty much every camera ever, especially if it has auto zoom built into it. It doesn't necessarily have to be white, but it works better if it's something that's white. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up all the stuff I need for the show, including the ability to look at what I'm doing. We're live right now. It doesn't necessarily have to be white. There we go. Live and in prime time. Brother. Yo, did you guys listen to the exit interviews that I did? The Vegas, sorry, not Vegas. The God damn it. Sorry. The Jacksonville one. Sorry. The Jacksonville one. So many tabs open that are all getting closed because they're ESPN tabs, which means if you leave them open long enough, they will autoplay a video. Gotta spam those listens, guys. Gotta spam those likes. But yeah, did the Jacksonville one, and it was popping. Like, yo, it's almost at 100 views. Pretty clutch. Jordan DeLugo is popping out here in these streets, and I appreciate him for it. Here we go. We're at 18? Yeah. Music's popping until we get the show started. I got a couple more slides I need to set up. If I show you the slides, don't snitch, okay? Tell me how your week's been going. In the comments, obviously. Oh, I should open Twitch. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I'm not gonna lie, in terms of like downloads and stuff like that, we are we kind of, I mean, I feel like we're doing a killer job when we're focusing just on YouTube and on Twitch. I haven't looked at the Twitch numbers, but the YouTube numbers kind of popping off a little bit. Progressively getting more and more people as the week goes on. Like the 3 exit interviews we've done so far. Sad to say, my boy Joe George is in last place in terms of views, but Karen Garegian talked to her about the Patriots. She's in second, and Jordan DeLugo from Generation Jag, he is got an active audience. So shout out to him. I also did not know that I had so many opinions about the Jacksonville Jaguars, but this is the world that we live in. Also, currently looking at an article on Yahoo and for like prep for the show. Looking at an article on Yahoo, and this guy Kevin Aioli, I think it's that Kevin Aioli. I can't tell though based off the photo. Let's click on it real quick. It's not that Kevin Aioli. It's the combat sports one. But anyway, for Yahoo Sports, he is a combat columnist, which makes it seem like he will beat your ass and then write a column about it. And I respect that, if that's how he gets down. Shout out to him. April 23rd. Ooh. That's gonna be kind of lit though, on the real. Show's gonna be a little short on custom segments this week, because you guessed it. I'm kidding. It's not because of that. It's because literally, we're doing other shit. I wish there was a way to show you only the things that I'm not working on. I'm pretty sure y'all can see that right now, but boom, 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 boom. Fun times, fun times. Whew. This is the only custom segment we're doing this week, I think. Yeah. Everything else is just not fun. You know what I mean? Oh. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. He's our combat columnist. Let these motherfuckers know. Gotta let them know up front. Not playing around. I'm about that life, is what he said immediately. It's pretty funny. Wow, man. Oh boy. Damn. If only could do custom dimensions, but hey. I do like how it's kind of locked in. But hey, what do I know? Let's go back it up one. The only reason I'm actively editing the show right now is because I'm trying to do better about scheduling the show and then sticking to that schedule. But yeah, we gotta do something about this backdrop for We Talking Money or We Talking Money. I think we're only doing one. Nope, we're doing two. I lied. We're doing 2 hydration breaks. And we have media suggestions. I forgot about that. God damn it. Yeah, so we got 2 custom segments this week. Don't worry, guys. And then after that, we can talk a little bit of that foosball, that American football. That one year we went to state. I am very thankful that I never grew up in a town where like 90% of the people that of the male population went to state at some point during their senior year, or their senior. It's always your senior year, right? It's never like your freshman year or anything. It's always your senior year you went to state. Anyway, do you know that person? Are you that person? Let me know. Are you the person that went to state your senior year? Shout out to you, because I never even got close to it. But to try and pretend that that's not like the craziest trope of people who live in Texas, I don't know. Oh man, did we lose a subscriber? I think we did. We lost a follower, guys. We're down to 42. Shout out to whoever that was. I wish you well. I'm sure you'll be back when we're rich and famous. That's how it goes. Damn, it's showing that scene. That's not what I wanted to show. What up, everybody? Thanks for hopping into the chat, people. Oh, shout out to the people who are going to listen to this retroactively, because you're the ones who get me one step closer to being rich. People who watch live, you help too. I appreciate that a ton. But usually we get a lot of retroactive watchers. And guys, I have a massive TikTok project that I'm undertaking, where I rank the position groups that are remaining in the NFL playoffs by team. So, yeah, I'm going to be dropping that pretty soon on TikTok, which, of course, the Ashton Forever is my TikTok. So, man, what was I, oh, right. One of my new favorite podcasts. Is this, I wonder if this other pivot podcast is popular, or am I just wild? A pivot moment. Yo, I used to rock transition lenses. I have a photo of me with transition lenses next to one of my best friends, a Lily. Her name is not a Lily, but her name is Lily. And I cannot tell you how, as a person who's been kind of whack his entire life, I've never been the cool kid, never proclaimed to be, never will be, because I don't have that mentality or desire to be, honestly, because it seems like it's a lot of work to do what it takes to be quote unquote cool. Case in point, this week I watched all of Hype House. If you're not familiar with it, it is a interesting show. It is about a bunch of TikTokers that live in a mansion and their issues and problems, which a lot of them are interesting because they're very first worldy type problems. Actually, it's really funny because like through the guise of like a person from the outside looking in who like doesn't know the kind of energy it takes to like make shit like video wise or anything like that, the energy it takes, my bad. Anyway, the energy it takes to put that kind of stuff together on a regular basis and be exceptional at it is a shit ton. And a lot of them admit that, you know, they get it because of their appearance. And as a matter of fact, it's really interesting to me because a good chunk of them do it because they, like, there's one kid who comes from like a really messed up background, and he actually goes to visit his father's grave at one point because he hasn't done that in like years or something like that. But like his father's death triggered a massive trauma response from his mother, which turned out to be seems like it is in the form of alcoholism. Just very sad, just in general, not only for her personally, but also for her kids, who I assume that she wants to be there for, but the reality of life is just really overwhelming for most people. I myself imagine that the day that, and I hate to even think about the day that my mother passes away, because quite frankly, you know, just between you and me, guys, don't think I've mentally accepted that I'll never be the same after a moment like that. And I'll never be the same, and hopefully I'll be able to continue to function as a human being, because that seems like, I don't understand how other people continue to exist after a parent, especially one that you actually love, passes away. Like, anyway, sorry to bring it down, but anyway, Hype House, it gives a backstory on some of these kids, because they're all under 30. They're all under 25, I think, off the top of my head. I think one of them is 25, and she's not even in the Hype House. She's a trans woman who's like become famous because of a makeup line, and of course she inspires people, and is a big part of helping other trans people feel seen and representation. She's also been, they talk about getting canceled in the course of the show. It's interesting overall, but yeah, definitely worth the watch. You'll get a chance to see, because their problems sound stupid, but when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, their problems are actually like really dark, in the sense that they're experiencing burnout in front. They're telling you about their burnout of making material for social media while they are filming a show on Netflix. Filming a show of their drama in their life for Netflix. Also, if you're like a Little Huddy fan, that's where he comes from. He used to be a part of Hype House, and he kind of ditches everyone, and he does a terrible job of addressing the fact that he's ditching the group. So, yeah, that's a thing. Man, it was an interesting watch while I was doing prep work for a lot of stuff, actually, for TikToks and the football, the NFL show, and this show too. So, yeah, definitely check it out. That's not my media suggestion for this week, but if you had some time on your hands, I would 100% say do that. It's worth it. We're almost done. Bengals versus Chiefs. These times are so weird. Bengals and Chiefs is at 2 p.m. I keep forgetting that. But it'll be dope because your boy lost his debit card, so he'll be at home. I love how like I lost my debit card and my girlfriend was just kind of like, okay, see you on Friday. And I'm like, I don't think you understand the extent of the situation. Oh, man. Yep, it's my annual lose my debit card and request to get a new one and have to wait awkwardly over a weekend. And, of course, it happens to be the weekend of two of the most important games of the sporting calendar of the year. So, classic, really, though. Whoo, boy. All right, let's do it. Fuck it. Let's cook. Let's cook, everybody. Major keys, bro. That's the name of the note that I have with all the links for the show on it, by the way. I'm not just randomly quoting DJ Khaled, who, quite frankly, based off of one interview with The Breakfast Club, I may not be as big a fan of as I thought. You guys know that one where he talks about how he doesn't eat the cooch because of life. Because he literally says, I don't eat pussy because... What was the reason he... Oh, he said I don't eat pussy because I make the money in my house. So, like, I don't have to do that kind of stuff that I don't want to do. Which, you know, his wife is okay with it, you know. I wouldn't even think she's okay with it. I think she just has to put up with it. It's a subtle / very deep form of compromise that exists within their household. Doubt she's okay with it at all. I should do another. This is the theme song for my other podcast called The Big Man Bias. It's a Quidditch one. Live stream. Ooh, hold up. That's really weird. Podcast. Sports. NFL. Oop, my bad. NFL playoffs. NFL Twitter. Yeah, if you got anything you need to... Wow, NFT community is trending on Twitter. Jesus Christ. Oh, by the way, that Hezbollah guy, the man who seems to have, what is it, dwarfism? It's probably not even dwarfism. It's a different thing altogether, I think. Why is Josh McCown trending? Don't be the reason I think it is. Don't be the reason I think it is. Okay, cool. Oh, no. Well, gonna have to get accustomed to having a supervillain as a head coach. Josh McCown has the face of a supervillain. There's no questioning of that. But looks like he's also in line to become the next head coach of the Houston Texans. Which, hey, man, if they really think that you're the guy who's gonna save us, save the world, good luck with that, I guess. Anyway, YouTuber, broadcast yourself, fool. YouTube Black? What is that? Is that like black YouTubers? I guess we're gonna find out. Ooh, terrible location for Broke Boys Sports Podcast. It's important because there is still another podcast that hasn't posted in like 2 years called the Broke Boy Podcast. I've always wanted to do like a spinoff of the Broke Boy Sports Podcast where I do the Broke Boy Podcast where I just talk about like crazy cheap deals that you find out in the real world and on the internet for stuff. And, I've always wanted to do that because I thought it would be really funny. I'm not gonna lie. At one point, there was going to be a segment on this show where I did like cheap deals, like where I would like talk about the McDonald's 4-for-4 deal and like give it a star rating type shit. Yo, my friend who's written like multiple books just posted about how people are like attacking libraries and what goes in them, and it's interesting. Because it's like, whatever. It's weird that we live in that world. Ooh, the black and white photo with the greenery in the background. That's a go-to classic for the internet. There's a chick that I know who I used to work with. Well, she was like she was a higher up in a different department, and we actually were entirely talked way too fucking much to each other. I'll say that much. She's really cool. I know her people who were under her actually didn't enjoy her all that much because she was out there pushing a terrible boss's agenda constantly. But now she's hustling that dude for money because she has like demanded more time off, and she's basically like gotten to the point where she shuts her phone off because that guy used to basically like command that he used to pay under market for people who are at their certain position, and then he would also he would pay under market price for people at their position, and then demand like the same amount of production out of those people. But yeah, he would basically get people who didn't have experience in the field or just getting started out of college and stuff like that, and like pay them nothing. And then if they would pretend that you had an opportunity to get a raise and you really didn't, because like your raise would be like, it would raise you up to like your regular amount of pay you should get at your experience level, and then you would get like twice as much work, so you would get more work on top of the stuff you were already doing, which is the ultimate trick move, right? Like it's the equivalent of like spiking the price up and then cutting it down and calling it a sale, right? Like putting it $50 over what it is everywhere else, and then cutting off that $50 or cutting it down to like just $10 over, and then being like, it's a 40% sale or a 10% sale. Yeah. Live discussing the NFL playoffs. That was one of my jobs. It was pretty funny. Because the day that I quit, everybody was telling me that I did such a great job. And I was like, cool. I was like being told that I was doing a terrible job every single day that I was there. Or like telling people were telling me that I wasn't doing enough. And then the second that I leave, everybody was telling me I was doing a great job. And they were like, hey, just so you know, if you ever need like a recommendation or anything like that, I will always put my name behind the work that you did here. And I was like, I appreciate that. Shout out to Christina Gukas for providing the soundtrack for the show, as always. Anyway, it's time to get it poppin', ladies and gents. Been rambling into this microphone for just a tad bit too long, I think. We're going to talk a lot of football today. There's actually so much football shit that this is basically another football show. So, sorry in advance for those of you who are looking forward to my NBA update. I don't have much for you, even though the NBA has been going on. I'm not here to deny that. I just have... Oh, man. Which one? I did this one. So, I have way too many tabs open right now. Sadiq Bey. Add them to my NBA players. NBA players and media. Also, if you want good list to follow on Facebook, on Twitter. If you want list to follow so you can get access to like tweets from people without following them or whatever, it's actually how I cut down like thousands of follows in the course of I have a way to, it's how I get tweets from like a ton of athletes and also a ton of media members without following them. So yeah, that's what's been going on. I have a bunch of lists. You should just check, go to my profile, hit the settings, but it's not even the settings, it's really like the drop down menu that's like on the top right, and it shows you the list that I've made, or gives you the option to look at the list that I've made. And I think it gives you a chance to look at the list that I'm on, because I look at that sometimes and it's really funny because I realize now I used to get a bunch of retweets because of the number of independent people who like put together, who have like Twitter accounts specifically for the fandom of their college team, and they used to follow me for recruitment news. And I never did like recruiting stuff. I just tweeted about like touchdowns and shit that players had. And I would do interviews with guys and it would get big time stuff. I actually found an interview one time that I did with this guy named Henry Thomas, who played for U of H, in a Texas or University of Houston forum. And they were basically like, oh man, the host is like super annoying on this. And I was like, okay, well, one of the guys in the show was Martin. Like we used to have a podcast together. We used to have what was it called? Oh yeah, Fort Bend Playbook is what it was called. And people would talk about how much it sucked. So, well, I'm kidding. Most people would say it was awesome, but there's like this one guy who's like, dude, his voice is like super annoying, and I was like, okay, interesting. Those people the people who say my voice is annoying, like, not to be braggadocious or like arrogant about it, it's like, come on, man, come on now, come on, buddy, come on. All right, let's get it started. 3, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody else in between, I'm Ashton Gene Lewis. This is the Broke Boys Sports Podcast, episode 179, called Tuned Up. It's actually in reference to a boxing match, one of the few non-football sports we're going to be talking about on this week's, today's episode, because as you know, we do 2 episodes a week. We do one specifically for football, which, guess what, guys, it's gonna have to change here pretty soon, from specifically football probably to specifically basketball, and then we will do the regular show on Friday. January 28th is today, by the way, in case you are still in the malaise that is 2020 and the days are all blurring together for you as well. Welcome to the weekend. Well, that depends if you're listening on Friday, a Saturday, or a Sunday. Shout out to you. You've made it to championship weekend, and I can't wait, man. I can't wait to watch some of the best football of the season, because for as much as we talked about Bills Chiefs being hyped up, we got some really good matchups, especially considering how some of these teams got to where they are right now, and it's going to be a ton of fun for me personally to watch them. So if you are a person that's going to be watching championship football this weekend, tell me where and who. Tell me where and who you're watching it with. I would love to hear those stories, because I know a lot of people, it means a lot this weekend. For me personally, I actually talked about it last week on the show about why championship weekend is so important. It's like the last weekend before the casuals hop in with their opinions, before the global media, literally the world media, on a grand scale starts focusing on two teams in the NFL, and they try and tell you how they know who's going to win, the Super Bowl after watching just the playoffs. So, which, whatever. Vegas doesn't care how you get the right or the wrong answer. They just care that you gave them an answer, really. Anyway, we got stuff to talk about. If you got stuff you want to talk about, put it in the chat. We're live on YouTube and on Twitch. We're simulcasting right now. Today we got nerd news on the docket. We got best of the best, of course. Hydration break, our first one of 2 today. Then we have worst of the worst. We do have a media suggestion, and we also have We Talking Money or We Talking Money this week. We do not have about a week ago, even though I probably could have cooked one up. I just didn't think of one off the top of my head. And then we'll be talking about a bunch of like nerds getting jobs. And when I say nerds, I mean people in the front offices of the football teams. But first and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at FB_playbook, at my other personal account at the Ashton J, where I tweet about my life and things that I like to do. For instance, today I tweeted about how I would be in killer shape if I didn't have to wash dishes after I cooked my food. Because quite frankly, that's the number one reason that I don't cook food on a consistent basis, because I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy the cleanup process. That's just it. Anyway, shout out to everybody who's hopped into the chat, either retroactively or currently. Make sure you feel free to write whatever you want in the chat in terms of like questions or hot takes about sports. Actually, you can even drop some hot takes about life, and I may stop and interact with you a little bit. But shout out to everybody who watches the show retroactively. Don't forget, check out my current YouTube series called Exit Interviews. It is where I specifically talk to media members or players. We do have players coming up, trust me. I know it's only been media members so far, but I got players in the works. But nonetheless, we got people who are close to NFL teams that cover them full-time, year-round, or either during the season, and we talk to them about what the preseason expectations were for the team in comparison to what happened in the regular season and how that has molded and directed the path for the offseason/postseason for some of these teams. We had Jordan DeLugo on. That episode premiered yesterday. This upcoming Tuesday, if you listen to the end of the Jordan one, I told you who was going to be on the next episode. Tuesday, I'm recording with Brooke Pryor, who, if you listen to this show pretty consistently in all of its different iterations, you've seen Brooke on here, I think, twice. So she's coming back on, and she's going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. She's been really busy. She's had to report about the retirement of Ben Roethlisberger, which I think robbed us a little bit of the hilarity of watching Ben as he completely crumbled and collapsed in the back half of his career, but also, thank God, we don't have to deal with that guy anymore. If you're a Steelers fan that like capes for Ben Roethlisberger, which there are a lot of you out there, I see you in the stands, I see you on Twitter, you're weird. You are strange birds. Anyway, you do you, live your life. Other stuff that, what else? Oh, we're talking about the Steelers next. We've talked about the Jaguars yesterday, and it was actually like the longest exit interview conversation because Jordan is, one, well-versed in understanding of the Jaguars, and then two, apparently I have way too much to say about them. My opinions ran the gambit, but we talked a good chunk of time about the Jacksonville Jaguars and what they need to do to be successful next season. We've talked about the Houston Texans and the Chicago Bears with Joe George, and we talked about the Patriots in exit interview number 1 with Karen Guregian. So make sure you check all those out. As time goes on, that list is gonna get longer and longer. So hopefully I'll be able to remember them all. But they're all people that I actually followed beforehand and have a ton of respect for, like as journalists and stuff like that. So it'll be pretty easy. Moving on. I forgot to tell you, like and subscribe, please. If you're looking at this either on Twitch, follow on the Twitch account at Broke Boy Sports, or if you're watching this on YouTube, follow on the Twitch account at Broke Boy Sports, or like and subscribe on YouTube. Appreciate if you did all 3 of them right now while you have a chance to do so. Don't forget, you can follow the Twitter account for the podcast where we just tweet out the podcast episodes at Broke Boy Pod. We also tweet out the exit interviews from there as well, and all the shorts that I do for the show as well. Also, don't forget Instagram, TikTok, at The Ashton Forever is my name on both of those accounts, and I've got a huge endeavor that I'm going under right now, trying to get done before Sunday, and it is a stupid series of TikToks that I'm doing, and we'll see how they pop off, if they pop off or not. But yeah, my goal to get over 1,000 followers so that I can go live on TikTok like before the show and stuff like that to, drum up some listens for the podcast, because it seems to be pretty effective on TikTok, more so than Instagram Live for some reason. But yeah, We move on, ladies and gentlemen. Today's episode name is Tuned Up, and it is in relation to Tyson Fury's new title bout, which we'll talk about in We Talking Money or We Talking Money. But we, first and foremost, need to talk about this. The year of the geek has arrived. If you are a person who finds yourself a fan of either sci-fi, fantasy, or a flurry of other things that run the gambit in that, or if you just like movies, it's gonna be pretty good. It's gonna be a pretty good year for movies. So I actually got a huge list of a bunch of movies that are coming out this year, and this isn't even like a full raw. Like, these are just some of the ones that stuck out to me on the list of movies that are coming out this year. But we'll take it from the top, and you can tell me in the comments, or you tell me retroactively on Twitter or whatever, about which ones that you are really pumped to see. So Moonfall, which is an interesting take. I heard about this on Fat Man Beyond. Apparently this director is like notorious for like alien invasion movies and stuff, but this one specifically is called Moonfall. It premieres February 4th, and it's about the moon crashing into the earth like piece by piece, and it being a precursor to an alien invasion, because apparently they've been either hiding inside the moon for like all these years, or they've awoken or something like that. But that's what the premise of the movie is. The other next one on here, number 2 on my list, and these are not ranked, they're just written in an order so that I can see them clearly on my list. But the new Batman movie with your boy Edward Cullen. I saw the trailer. It dropped on YouTube. It looks pretty fucking sick. So looks like it's gonna be looked like they did a really good job. Didn't even have to use the whole like we have Michael Keaton in this movie card yet. But yeah, it's March 4th, so check that out. Of course, everybody's gonna check it out, right? Like, everybody, even for the people who claim that they hate DC, which of course is like the most in vogue thing to do in the history of all of nerddom right now, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe has established like an entire decade worth of backstory for a lot of characters, and they're moving on into the next phase, and they've done a great job. They really have, objectively. And then DC, of course, has been wrought with drama because of guys like Josh Whedon being involved in stuff like that. So but yeah, the new Batman movie gonna be popping. It's got the Riddler, the Penguin, and apparently old Batman Michael Keaton in it. So yeah, a new movie coming out from Pixar, Turning Red. It is a young lady who is going through a year of growth, like an adolescent year. She's like going through puberty and stuff like that. And apparently a part of her going through puberty, because she's a part of a magical lineage, is that she transforms into a giant red panda. And it's like connected to her emotions. Apparently, it is inspired by the Miyazaki films, which, if you're not familiar with that, within the realm of anime, some of the most iconic stuff that has ever been done, like Totoro, My Neighbor Totoro. Which, you know what? Every time I think of My Neighbor Totoro, I can't think of anything other than the super creepy fan theory that the little girl is dead and Totoro is like the guardian, like he's like the Hades of her world or something like that, and that's not what it is. Anyway, you should watch My Neighbor Totoro. It's really good anime, legendary type stuff, like Akira is legendary type stuff. Anyway, paved the way for modern day anime that we watch today. March 25th, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is on deck, which, by the way, super pumped for this one. I love the first Doctor Strange movie, and this is the one that I've been looking forward to the most. And now that I know it seems like it's a huge key pivot point, like it's a key memory that's supposed to happen, and there's going to be a ton of stuff that goes down because the door to the multiverse has been kind of squeaked open by No Way Home. If you have not seen it, I'm not going to spoil anything. Just know the stuff that we already knew before. The multiverse was already involved in everything like that. That's how the villains from the original Spider-Man trilogy come back into his world, and the other Andrew Garfield Spider-Man come back into the world. But yeah, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, it's going to be pretty dope. If you haven't seen No Way Home and you want a link, let me know. I can send that to you. Anyway, Multiverse of Madness, Tom Cruise is rumored to be in this movie in some way, shape, or form. And of course, everybody assuming it is an alternate version of Doctor Strange because he is in the multiverse of madness in some way, shape, or form. A lot of people connecting the little teaser trailer at the end of No Way Home to what the Doctor Strange that we saw in the What If universe, where he absorbed all of the magical creatures to gain magical powers, to turn back time, and all that, to gain more magical strength, to turn back time and permanently change the timeline and change a key moment in his universe's timeline, which is of course the death of the love of his life in that car accident. And instead, every time he tries to change it, it ends up with her dying no matter what. Like, she dies in some way, shape, or form. Like, literally, there's one where she survives, he's in the car, and then like a truck hits her or something like that. So yeah, you should definitely watch the What If series that they've come out with, especially since they're doing a season 2, and apparently it has a key episode that was removed from season 1, which, if you were confused by the season finale for What If season 1, that other episode is supposed to be in season 2. The Gamora thing. Yeah, that thing. Anyway, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is supposed to be a huge inflection point for the MCU. Can't wait for it. I just like Doctor Strange's story in general, because the rise to becoming Sorcerer Supreme, because for the most part, I never saw that story to where he ascends to it. I've just always known that Doctor Strange is the Sorcerer Supreme, and currently in the MCU, he is not. So that is going to be a big part of the storyline for this phase of Marvel, where he rises to the level of Sorcerer Supreme. So yeah, everything, everywhere, all at once. Michelle Yeoh is in this, and that's all I needed to hear. Apparently, this is a multiverse. Like, it's not an MCU one. It is just like a multiverse show where she's trying to get her taxes done in multiple universes and across multiple universes, and it has affected some way, shape, or form. There's a trailer out. I didn't watch the trailer because, quite frankly, like I said, Michelle Yeoh is in this movie, and I'm going to go see it for that reason alone. Number 6 on my list, on April Fool's Day, apparently, which is suspect, Morbius will be coming out, and it's I think this is no, it's just a regular Marvel Disney one for some reason. I always think this is like a Sony one or something. But yeah, Morbius is coming out. Morbius is the Batman of Marvel. Anyway, he literally is. He literally has like a bat god's power. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go see it. I'm a nerd. It's Morbius. I am not super familiar with the comics. I just know that Morbius is one of the cult-like characters that a lot of people appreciate, and also I'm assuming he ties in with Blade in some way, shape, or form. Also, it's a part of the MCU, so I'm like legally obligated as a geek to go see it. 7th on my list, on April 8th, so like the following week, apparently Sonic 2 is coming out. That's the one with Knuckles. So I didn't see the first one. Probably not gonna go see the second one, but hey, maybe you are. Speaking of interesting takes here, April 15th, so the week after this one, Fantastic Beast, the third one, which I don't know if it's like the final one or not or anything like that, but the third one after Johnny Depp has been recasted by Mads Mikkelsen, and a bunch of other stuff has gone on as well. Fantastic Beasts is coming out on April 15th. I know a lot of people who are gonna watch this show hate J.K. Rowling for what she says and what she believes, and quite frankly, they should, because she is assisting in oppression. But I will say, she did not really write Fantastic Beasts. I thought this story was really well. I think the first 2 movies were interesting. I didn't enjoy them when I saw them in theaters, but I did watch them, and I enjoyed the first one in theaters. I enjoyed it a lot more when I watched it at home. The second one, it kind of had a plot twist that everybody could see coming a mile away, but I enjoyed it myself when it happened. Also, the Grindelwald scene at the end, I enjoyed a ton. But yeah, this is the hunt for Grindelwald that the whole premise of this one is about. They're getting the team together to fight off the most evil wizard of all time. If you're not familiar with the Harry Potter universe, Grindelwald is the guy that Voldemort looked up to and basically was like, I'm gonna steal his steeds in terms of like killing all the muggles. So that's what his whole deal is. He believes that certain people are better than other people, and they should be treated and rewarded as if they are better than other people, which typically means like he thinks that humans should be enslaved. But yeah, it's not typically. It's what he really thinks. If you remember from was it Order of the Phoenix? I think it was Order of the Phoenix, where they go into the Ministry of Magic, and the Magic is Might statue is there, where like the humans are on the bottom and they're holding up a platform that holds up wizards. Yeah, that's what Grindelwald is about, and he influenced and inspired Voldemort to pick up where he left off at, and this is about his story. It's also about Albus Dumbledore, who is, Dumbledore, the headmaster from Hogwarts in the films, his younger years, because in the books you read about Harry reading about Dumbledore's past, about a bunch of past stuff that's happened in Dumbledore's life that Harry didn't know about, in particular how he was best friends with Grindelwald. And as a matter of fact, how he apparently is, a lot of people say this is whack as fuck because it is done retroactively and it is not done in the book, and it is an interpretation by other people, and it is a way to, like, they call it, I think, is it like queer baiting is what the terminology is called, like in an insulting way, because she basically came out and was just like, yeah, Dumbledore and Grindelwald were gay, and yeah, like they were gay and they were best friends, and no, like you couldn't, like, she was like, of course you can tell from like the way that they talk about each other, like how the way Albus Dumbledore wrote about Grindelwald, that they were really in love with each other. Which, by the way, when I read it, and this is before I was as informed as I am now about like my queer brothers and sisters just in general, it definitely sounded like Dumbledore wrote romantically about Grindelwald in the book, because it has like excerpts from his journal or something like that Harry gets a hold of. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. I'm gonna check it out because if you guys don't know, I play Quidditch. It's something that Harry Potter's been a part of my life. It's not like the biggest fandom that I have, quite frankly. I've read all the books multiple times, I've seen all the movies multiple times, but I'm not like obsessed with Harry Potter. Like, I didn't watch the 20-year reunion and cry like a bunch of people did. I actually haven't even watched that reunion. I have no desire to actually do it because I don't get what it's supposed to be about. I enjoyed Harry Potter when it was coming out. One, because I was the same age as Harry Potter. I was the same exact age as Harry Potter in all the books. And actually, as a matter of fact, secret thing, most of the books came out like either a day before or like a day after my birthday. So my mom used to like go and get the books for me from like Barnes and Noble when Barnes and Noble was still popping in the streets. She used to go get the books like the day before, or like one of her coworkers would like be able to somehow get a book early. Which, by the way, the oldest trick in the book was sorry, had to do that pun. But the oldest trick in the book is like those early release books. You go in like the day before and you just ask the people at the counter, like, do they have any copies left? Because I swear every time, there was like a there would always be news stories that would come out that would be like, oh, all the Harry Potter books are sold out in Houston, but you could like go into the store and ask them, like, do they have a book? And they would have it because the pre-orders were sold out. That is not the quantity of the books that they actually had. But yeah, that's Ashton telling the story about the old days, back before the internet was super popular. But yeah, Fantastic Beasts, April 15th. Can't wait to go see it. Fantastic Beasts really gets me because it is fully immersed in magic. Like, for instance, I think I've told you guys this before, but the best Harry Potter film and book is Goblet of Fire because it has the most magic, hands down. A lot of Harry Potter is centered around personal relationships in terms of how, like, the magic is the love and the friends you made along the way a lot of the times in Harry Potter. But I mean, Goblet of Fire is literally a tournament of like who's the best wizard, and it's dope. I love it. But yeah, that's a lot of Fantastic Beasts is really just fully immersed in magic and about how personal connections affect the strength of magic. So I like that, but it does have a ton of magic and a ton of animals and connections and ways that wizards obscure their world from the quote-unquote real world, right? The next thing on my list, there's a new Top Gun coming out that people have been talking about for like 2 years. By the way, a lot of these movies were supposed to come out in 2020 or early 2021, and they didn't have a chance to because they didn't have a chance to film and finish filming. So that's why there's so much backlog of geek stuff coming out, and I personally enjoy it myself. But yeah, I've never watched the original Top Gun. It missed my generation. I think the original Top Gun came out in like the 80s or something. But I never watched the original Top Gun, but I get all the jokes because Top Gun was so popular and it seeped over into a lot of media. I get the volleyball scene. I get the whole like wearing the aviator glasses and stuff like that. I've seen the movie poster 1,000,001 times. I can tell you Maverick and Iceman type deal. I can tell you the whatever. That movie, the new Top Gun, comes out May 27th, and I think it's Topher Grace is the main lead in there. He's Iceman's son, and Maverick is still alive and all that kind of jazz like that. So moving on, June 10th, Jurassic Park Dominion. Do you notice how like there's multiple high quality movies pretty much every month of this year that's coming out? It's gonna be amazing. Jurassic Park Dominion. Don't know what the plot of this is, but I'm just gonna close my eyes and draw upon my knowledge of all 17 other Jurassic Park movies that I've gotten to know. There's always one movie where they go back to the island because there is some key piece of information that they need to get, and it turns out the dinosaurs have taken over the island, which is definitely a huge nod to Dominion. If you recall, that's when the Spinosaurus comes into play for a lot of the case. Basically, they come to find out that there's like some huge amount of research about like key research that can help save the world that's on the island. They go to the island. The dinosaurs are loose because the only thing they've been able to do is contain them, because like every Jurassic Park's theme, every single theme in Jurassic Park, ladies and gentlemen, life goes on, right? They're all female dinosaurs, but they can they reproduce asexually, and they find a way to do it. They find a way to continue on, and they send a huge bunch of people. There's a lot of military dudes, and then there's some regular people who are dedicated scientists. They go all around the island, bunch of extras, aka the extra military dudes that are there to shoot as many dinosaurs as possible and all that kind of jazz like that, who partially don't believe that the island is inhabited by dinosaurs until they get there. Tell me if I'm drifting off from like the theme and story of every Jurassic Park movie for the ones that are after the dinosaurs escape, right? They get on the island. They kill off like half the soldiers because there's a bunch of flying dinosaurs that have the ability to pick up entire human beings and drop them, and they fall from like crazy high heights. There are raptors at some point that show up, and they click, and I'm sure Blue is in the trailer, right? Like Blue survives. She survives after the T-Rex gets out and all that kind of jazz like that. There are a bunch of raptors. They show up. They either help or they hurt kind of deal, and they have to find out if Blue remembers Chris Pratt, right? And he does the thing, and Blue remembers, right? These dinosaurs are smarter than they were before because they're genetically grown and all that kind of jazz like that. What else? What else goes into? Oh, they get to the lab where they're looking for this research that can help change everything kind of deal. They get to the lab, and then there's a new dinosaur they discover that's on the island that they didn't expect to be there, and then it turns out the T-Rex is going to help them kill the other dinosaurs in an unspoken manner, right? Like the big bad is the genetically altered new dinosaur that's higher up on the food chain than the T-Rex. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm off. I haven't watched the trailer, but that's my guess. Lightyear, June 17th, so the week after Jurassic Park Dominion. Is this a Pixar film? I think it's a Pixar film. It's a Disney animated film because Disney owns Pixar. Lightyear, June 17th. If you don't know, they are doing, yes, that Lightyear. Buzz Lightyear is getting his own standalone movie, and it actually has nothing to do with the toy. It is that old cartoon from Disney XD or Disney Channel, whatever you want to call it, but it's like Buzz Lightyear in the space, whatever. When he becomes a space ranger, like the actual backstory of the toy that the toy is based off of a TV character, Buzz Lightyear, and that's what this movie is. It's about how he becomes like the greatest space ranger of all time and all this kind of stuff like that. So that's what this movie is centered around. Can't wait to see it. Thor: Love and Thunder is coming out on July 8th. This movie has Christian Bale in it as Gore the God Butcher. If you don't know what Gore the God Butcher is, he is considered to be one of, if not the greatest villain in the history of Marvel. And he's ridiculously powerful. His ultimate objective, because he came from a land where people blindly were followed their religion, and it turned out blindly following their religion led to the death of his wife and child. That hatred turned him into a person that sought out to kill all gods. That's why he's called the God Butcher. Get it? Like his whole objective is to kill all gods, like of all types of religion. And it turns out in the Marvel universe, and I'm sure they're going to address this, that in the Marvel universe, in the grand scheme of it all, gods of all religions that like you think about here on Earth, they all exist just in different domains. Like they control different parts of the universe in different levels of domains, and they all are super powerful, and they all kind of have, like, the Greek gods are technically real, the Roman gods are technically real, the Norse gods, Thor, real, and of course Gore the God Butcher is trying to kill them all because he feels like people blindly following the gods is what's leading to their downfall. He also feels like the gods have betrayed their role as gods and they're not helping the people who believe in them. So that's what it is from the comics. There's also a big question about whether or not they're going to do this really sick fight scene where 3 different versions of Thor team up together to fight Gore the God Butcher. There's like old Thor, who is the ultimate version of Thor. He's what is he called? Allfather Thor, because he takes the role of Odin. Odin's retired, if you remember from the last Thor film. Yeah, Thor 3 Ragnarok. His dad retires essentially, and Thor is the only person that can really take the throne that technically doesn't exist because Asgard's been destroyed, but he is supposed to take on that role of becoming the next Odin. He becomes Thor Allfather and all that kind of jazz like that, which I think is actually what this whole movie is about. It's the development of Thor into a far more powerful version of himself to prepare for like a next level. Like we talk about the Eternals, right? Like in the Eternals, they have the Guardians that are there. Did I say that right? No. The Eternals the Eternals are in their film, they kind of have like next level entities that were there or essentially created as close to the birth of the universe as possible, or the birth of the multiverse as possible, and their job is to help trim the universe down and all that kind of stuff like that. God level characters, and you need to basically upgrade all of the characters from like the old Marvel universe and add some already super powerful people as well, because this whole thing is about space. This whole next phase is about space and magic, and this lines up perfectly with it because it has a hint of religion mixed into it, about how people feel betrayed by religion a lot of the time, especially in the time that we live in now, where like more and more young people are drifting away from the church for obvious reasons. But yeah, that is the big question, if they're going to do the 3 Thor God fight, which would be kind of cool. But yeah, this continues to push the magic and space phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Gore the God Butcher, for comic book fans, very popular because of the way he was introduced. Anyway, also very high percentage chance we just get to look at Tessa Thompson's face again. Big dubs. Even whatever the situation may be for the rest of this movie, we get to look at Tessa Thompson in skimpy armor, quote unquote skimpy armor, fully clothed armor, but form-fitting. There we go, form-fitting armor, which we can all appreciate on a lot of different levels about Tessa Thompson. There are also rumors of Beta Ray Bill, who is a very popular Thor character, being in this film, and especially since he was depicted in Thor Ragnarok when he was one of the 3 champions of the gladiator arena on the giant Mount Rushmore, the metal Mount Rushmore, and he's the guy on the far left. He's like a dude with a bird beak kind of deal. Anyway, the number 12 on my list, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. If you haven't seen the trailer, you need to go do yourself a favor and watch it. It premieres October 7th. It is going to probably make a lot of people cry. It's very heartwarming, and it is once again the journey of Miles Morales, one of the most beloved versions of, or one of the most beloved Spider-Man that is out there in the universe right now, because he goes through some very relatable stuff, and he goes through some stuff that is only connected to like him in terms of like his relationship with his family. And on top of that, like, he is truly the epitome, as it currently stands right now, he's the epitome of Spider-Man. He's like a kid trying to go out there and do adult things like be a hero, and it reminds you that you don't have to be an adult to be a hero, and it looks like it's going to be amazing yet again. I'm sure the soundtrack is going to absolutely slap, and then there's going to be some great performances acting-wise, because apparently there's supposed to be even more Spider people involved with this one, and assuming they're going to impart the same lesson that the previous Spider people imparted upon Miles the first time around, which, if you remember from the film, if you haven't seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you should. It is amazing. But they impart the lesson of Spider-Man always gets up. That's just that's the one rule. Spider-Man always gets up, and until he can. So yeah. Moving on, number 13. Actually, I don't think anybody cares about this one, but Avatar 2 is coming out on December 16th, the same day as Aquaman, by the way, that's a choice. December 16th, which is 10 days before Christmas. That's a choice. Avatar 2, don't know how many people are going to actually care about. I didn't care about the first Avatar. So there's that. I'm very aware that it was just Space Pocahontas. So, and there are some people who like staunchly are against Pocahontas in general as a film because of the amount of lies that are told in it. I am not one of those people. By the way, if you want the truth about Pocahontas, John Smith was like 37 and Pocahontas was like 14. Yeah, look it up. I'm not joking. Like, that's for real, for real. Pocahontas was a child that was kidnapped from her tribe, kidnapped from her family, and then I think they killed all of her people. Or did she go with them so that they wouldn't kill her people? Anyway, she was a child taken by grown men and more than likely assaulted. Aquaman, December 16th. I forgot what the subtitle is for this one, or the little moniker at the end. Anyway, the first Aquaman was really good. I enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to watch the second one. I'm assuming it's going to get better. I think, did they recast Mera because of the Johnny Depp thing? I don't know. Who actually cares about Avatar 2, though? I'm definitely going to see Aquaman 2. Jordan Peele has a new film coming out. It's called Nope. And the only thing we know about it right now is the movie poster, which is a cloud with a kite connected to it, and it's over a house. That's it. Like, go look up the movie poster. That's all we really know about it. Black Adam comes out July 29th, which, if you are not familiar, The Rock basically spoke it into existence that he was going to portray Black Adam. If you're not familiar, Black Adam is like an anti-hero / villain for Shazam. If you watch the Shazam movie, this guy's related to it in a certain way. He basically siphons the same powers off kind of deal. He is an ancient person that is awoken because somebody walked into a temple, and I don't know what the storyline's going to be. But Black Adam is a really, really, really popular character in the DC universe. If you've watched Justice League Unlimited or Justice League in general, you've actually seen Black Adam before. You just don't know it. But yeah, The Rock is portraying Black Adam, and it should be fun because The Rock's a pretty good actor, especially. He's really good at making lines that are for somebody else sound like it's just The Rock in a costume. Also, he's challenged himself to be in better shape than a superhero is going to be, which to his credit, think he already is. If you're looking at this, Dwayne, I think you're already in better shape than most superheroes are. Number 16 on the list, Salem's Lot. Sorry, this list is long. I just wanted to get across the point that there is this much nerd shit happening this season or this upcoming year, and it's going to be amazing. Salem's Lot, September 9th. Apparently, this is the greatest book that Stephen King ever wrote, and they're just turning it into a film. I don't know what the deal with that is, but if you're a horror film person, I'm not. But apparently a lot of people are looking forward to this one because Salem's Lot is considered to be one of his best works yet. Another Mission Impossible movie is coming out. Yes, Mission Impossible 7. They have not released like the plot of this, but I have a strange feeling Tom Cruise is going to put those combat capris on yet again, and he'll be running down the streets of some country in Europe trying to get away from somebody driving a car and shooting a gun at him. So one of the quintessential action movies that really redefined an entire generation's perspective on action movies, because whatever you have to say about Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol is the one that like revived it from the dead essentially, but a lot of people respect the visuals, the stunts, and everything that goes into Mission Impossible because they pushed the envelope when they first came out, and then they continued to do it as time goes on, and they got revived because of some great innovation in terms of how action movies are supposed to be filmed. So shout out to Tom Cruise, still doing it. Tom Cruise, who's apparently, somebody was joking, I think, and they said he's like 70 years old. That would be if he was 70 years old and looked the way he does, obviously, guys, he's an immortal. Right? Like, at that point, we can't, at that point, we have to capture him, right? We have to capture him, take him to Area 59 or Area 51, whatever, and maybe Area 52. Right. Whatever number, that area, we take him to that. November 4th, this is a huge moment for DC. This is another attempt to get things, I guess, back on track after the Justice League movie had such a interesting release where they had to re-release a pivotal movie like that in black and white with Zack Snyder's cut on HBO Max for people to watch during a pandemic. The Flash is November 4th, and it is supposed to be the Flashpoint storyline. If you're not familiar with comics, Flashpoint in DC, well, really in comics in general, is one of the largest, wide-ranging stories in the history of comics. There's like over 100 issues that are across multiple titles. So like there's even like super minor characters that get their own short run because of the effects of this, and it's all centered around the Flash's ability to run so fast. He can using the Speed Force. He goes back in time to save his mom from dying. If you don't know that part about the Flash, I think if there's anything you know about the Flash from the Justice League movies they've set up, it is that his father is in jail for he's been accused and convicted of killing his own mother, and everybody knows that that's not the case. If you know the story, you know who actually killed the Flash's mom. And I think that they're gonna, of course, that's gonna be a thing that comes up in the Flashpoint film. And it is also about the effects of how it's basically about the butterfly effect. He goes back and he changes a key point in the DC timeline, and it spirals off into affecting other people in some minor way, shape, or form. And it actually, I think Flashpoint is the one where you learn that the Flash created the Flash, because it's like time is a flat circle, like everything is happening at the same time. So the Flash going further back in time to fix another issue, creates the lightning bolt that strikes Barry Allen the first time when he has the chemicals in his hands that makes him into the Flash. So the Flash creates the Flash, I think, is in one of the points that happens at the Flashpoint. Let's see if they actually do it and how they do it, because that took me a while to grasp, but I also learned about that when I was like in high school or something like that. Anyway, number 19, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. There's no T'Challa supposedly in this film. Don't forget, this was supposed to be about Shuri becoming and ascending to the title of Black Panther, but because of some injury situation and also some anti-vax takes, that may or may not be the case with Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We'll see what happens. Also, Riri Williams, who is the next Iron Man, is supposed to be in this one because she goes to MIT, which is where Tony Stark like paid for everybody's funding for their projects and everything like that. And he also has like a bunch of money invested in some of the brightest minds, and Riri Williams is one of them. She develops her own Iron Man suit. Anyway, number 20 on my list, Creed 3. Yeah, this is the last one. Michael B. Jordan is directing Creed 3. I don't know why I just whistled like that. That was weird. Michael B. Jordan is directing Creed 3. After Creed 1 was directed by Ryan Coogler, Creed 2 was directed by somebody else. I forget who it was. But Creed 3 is supposed to be directed by Michael B. Jordan. The key piece of information that we know about Creed 3 is that Jonathan Majors, who, if you're unfamiliar with him, he was in, Lovecraft Country as Atticus. He was also in the final couple of episodes of Loki as the one who, the man at the end of time or whatever. He is also in this one, and it makes everybody think that he's going to be Clubber Lang Jr. And yeah, if you remember Clubber Lang, that was Mr. T's character from the Rocky series, and Creed 3 is. In Creed 2, they fight with Drago Jr. In Creed 3, he would fight Clubber Lang Jr. Get it? Something like that. We'll see. Maybe a Clubber Lang Jr. inspired character, which would be interesting. Nonetheless, that's 20 movies, just the tip of the iceberg in terms of 20 movies that are supposed to be premiering this year. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the next phase of our show. Yes, we still have some more show to go. We have Best of the Best, and we talk about, did I do it? I did. The LA Elitist. So, after the LA Rams were victorious versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the LA Rams sales team was pretty smart, and they knew something was afoot. They know for a fact that they've been outsold in terms of home fans, in terms of visitor fans, multiple times this season, including times when they played against the Chargers, it was against the Chargers, and it was the time that they played against the 49ers. So, somehow, they got in contact with, I think it was Ticketmaster or StubHub, because I think StubHub is the official ticket partner of the NFL. They got in contact with StubHub, and they were like, hey, don't allow people, especially the early tickets, I think is what this whole thing was about. Like, there were people were buying tickets while the game was going on. assuming that the Rams are going to make it to the NFC Championship game, which will be hosted by the Rams in SoFi Stadium, where the Super Bowl will be hosted. So it could be a nice little run here for the Rams in a major season, because it could be them winning a Super Bowl in SoFi Stadium in LA for in front of all the fans and create a bunch of new bandwagoners. Anyway, they were told the sales team somehow got in contact with Ticketmaster or StubHub, whoever it was, and they restricted the sales of tickets to people who do not have credit cards registered to people who have credit cards registered to LA County or LA region area addresses. And specifically, you had to live in Los Angeles or the area around Los Angeles to be able to purchase a ticket. And it had to be the address on your credit card connected to your billing address or whatever. And a lot of 49ers fans caught on to this. And I don't know if you know location of geography of California. The Bay Area, where San Francisco is very far away from Los Angeles, and it is not within the LA region. So 49ers fans were effectively iced out of being able to buy tickets to the NFC Championship game for what I believe was like a couple of days. And then they got, I don't know how they got it reversed or whatever. Somebody got on the phone with someone, probably somebody from the 49ers, because they know that they know that the Bang Bang Niner gang is going to turn up and show out, especially now that there's this story where the Rams are trying to stop them from buying tickets. They're going to get even more 49ers fans in the local area to buy tickets, because I'm sure there were plenty of Niners fans that live in LA that bought tickets and then got paid back by other people who own those tickets. So that brings me to my next point. Andrew Whitworth's wife, if you remember Andrew Whitworth, we talked about him last week. He's 40 years old, playing left tackle in the NFL. He did not play versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because guess what? He is a freak of nature, but even that has its limits. He had a knee injury. I think it was like knee swelling in general, which if it's enough knee swelling to stop Andrew Whitworth, is probably pretty bad. He is allegedly supposed to be playing this upcoming week in the NFC Championship game. Only time will tell on that one, but nonetheless, his wife implored all of the LA Rams fans, hey, if you're going to sell your tickets, I will buy them. Do not sell them to Niners fans, because the Niners fans are probably, by the way, the Niners fans are probably paying out the ass to get access to those Rams tickets, especially since the Rams fans probably bought the nice tickets or like the 50-yard line tickets, which is where, or the 50-yard line tickets or the end zone tickets are usually the first ones to get purchased out, especially before the price spike and all that kind of jazz like that. But nonetheless, the Rams, they tried to be a little sneaky snake, and we'll find out on Sunday at 5 o'clock if they get absolutely fucked by this, by pissing off 49ers fans who are already a dedicated bunch of guys and gals out there. So we will find out. I find that to be the best story that I heard this entire week in all of sports. Anyway, we take a break. We take our first hydration break, ladies and gentlemen, of the show. And when we come back, we'll do worst of the worst. We will also do We Talking Money, and I'll give you my media suggestion for the week when we come back right here on the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. By the way, we do not judge how you hydrate here on the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. All liquids are hydration on the show. Wink, wink. Oh, I guess we're back. My bad. Sorry, guys. What's up? We are back here live on the Broken Boy Sports Podcast. I actually didn't hydrate, so we're going to take a second to do that. Make sure you hydrate, kids. Hydration is not a joking manner. Anyway, we have a couple of things we need to talk about here, and a lot of them are centered around, you guys know, the question starts to become, do I know, as I scroll back on my document here. So we got worst of the worst coming up. This one's pretty easy. Did I put it on here? Let's find out, guys. Yes, I did. The Washington football team's at it again, ladies and gentlemen. Back at it like a crack addict they are. As you guys know, some of the scummiest leadership in all of the NFL. Safe to say that about the squad, and that's saying a lot. They actually, you know what I will say about Washington? They are probably some of the scummiest leadership that gets caught in the NFL, because they're so bad at being villains that they get caught on a constant basis. So, if you guys don't know, the team is announcing their brand new spanking name, their new branding, their new uniforms, all that kind of jazz on February 2nd of this here year, 2022, and ushering in a new era for the Washington football team, while the following day, they will also be talked about on the floor of the House of Representatives on February 3rd, where multiple employees who were part, and when I say a part, I mean the victims of sexual harassment and the toxic work environment where, people had their jobs constantly threatened. They're having the cheerleader who talked about the sponsors who watched them all do the nude photo shoot for the calendar for the team on that island of Bahamas, which I think in part, in some way, shape, or form, talks about that instance where they took their passports or something like that, and then they also sold dinner dates with the cheerleaders, and a lot of them felt like that they had to do it because of power dynamics, obviously, and they were also, that's like a part of the team. The team is kind of like real wishy-washy about all of your responsibilities throughout the course of the season, but nonetheless, they kind of felt like they were utilizing the sex appeal of the cheerleaders to try and draw in sponsors for the team, which, let's be for real, y'all. That's exactly what they were doing. But yeah, that's what's happening. So February 2nd, the team is announcing their brand new name and branding and all that kind of stuff like that. There's probably going to be a ton of stories where they're going to flood the sports media landscape, because it is going to be, the week before the Super Bowl, right? Yeah, it's like the week before the Super Bowl, the Wednesday before the Super Bowl. And as you guys know, there is nothing that media members love more than trying to pretend they are fake fashionistas and tell you that they understand color schemes and they know how this stuff should look, and they have their beef with it. By the way, allegedly the nerds caught the Washington football team in 4K, and the NFL in 4K. There's a tweet that's out there. If you type in Washington Commanders, if you type it in on Twitter or whatever you want to type it in on, there's a tweet where it talks about the company that is web hosting for the NFL, that, because if you go to every NFL website, they all look exactly the same, because they're all hosted and controlled by the same company for the most part, through the same portal, the same software that goes with it to be able to display the websites to look exactly the same and connect to the same database of stats, right? Without having to have 32 independent entities keep track of stats on their website or keep track of articles and move them a certain way. But nonetheless, they found a registration trade or a registration connection of the Washington Commanders to that company that controls the websites, and they have not found that in all of the stuff they've done, because a lot of people tweeted about, like, oh man, if you type in like Washington Admirals, remember that one time we talked about how the Washington Admirals are a team in the in Major League Quidditch, and how the NFL and everybody else realized that, oh man, they could potentially be going with Admirals, because if you type in Washington football team, or if you type in WashingtonAdmirals.com, it redirects to the Washington football team website. Apparently this is like a back end thing where this company now owns and controls the website itself. It's not just like a redirect or anything like that. It's something that you haven't seen with all the other situations online in terms of the redirects. But yeah, I just wanted to point out the skeeviest thing possible to potentially I wonder if this was intentional, because we also sit here and wonder, is the Sean Taylor thing that happened earlier this season where they paid homage to Sean Taylor when they played the Chiefs earlier this year, and they paid homage to Sean Taylor, that just so happened to be the day that they connected, Dan Snyder and Bruce Allen, or they connected the John Gruden emails to the Washington football team that the week prior, and they just so happened to also be having Sean Taylor's celebratory memorial or like memoriam thing that nobody had heard about until like a week before or something like that. So they even had people who were talking about, hey, the crucial catch situation that the NFL does to help inspire people to go get tested for cancer, which if you have a genetic history of cancer, you definitely should. They do a crucial catch campaign every single year, and they talked about how the crucial catch campaign had like 20,000 towels, and the Sean Taylor Memorial event, the Sean Taylor game day event, had like 8,000 towels. And if you were really trying to pay homage to Sean Taylor, you probably want as many people to have commemorative towels from that day as possible. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a dude that talks into a microphone. I also just want to point out like really basic shit that seems really suspect. That they just so happen to be announcing their name the day before a bunch of former employees go to the actual federal government to testify about their experience within the Washington football team, which is and 30 minutes away from where Washington is existing. So yeah, and it's basically like, we're moving on and you're stuck in the past, kind of stuff like that. That's what they're basically like. We are moving on into a new era. The team that they are talking about is the Washington R-words. That's not the team that we are anymore. We're the Washington Commanders. That's what I got for Worst of the Worst. Moving on. Our segment, We Talking Money or We Talking Money, where we talk about, you guessed it, money. So, We Talking Money, this week the number is $40 million. The Top Rank, which is one of the biggest and best boxing promotions in the entire world, not just the country, but because boxing is a global sport, like on a high level, like there's no question about that whatsoever. But Top Rank and Questenberry Promotions, which is the promotion that belongs to, in part, Tyson Fury, the reigning, undisputed, unquestioned champ. Actually, I'm kidding. There is an interim champ that Tyson Fury is going to fight. His name is Dylan White. He is not white. He's black. He's a very strong-looking lad, very strapping lad, as they like to say. I have no idea where he's from. I've never seen him fight a single day in my life. My friend Snowman sent me this story that Tyson Fury is getting paid $32 million because of the highest bid ever for a heavyweight bout. Apparently, I think this is like a European thing, or it must be in Europe, or maybe it's just like because the highest bid ever, which doesn't include, this is just a raw number. Like, he gets $32 million off the top for this fight, regardless of what happens. It doesn't include the pay-per-view odds, doesn't include all the merch sales and all that kind of stuff like that, which, if you know anything about Tyson Fury, he be getting that money, baby. Old Tyson Fury, he would have been off the rails the second that he heard he was getting $32 million. But luckily, this man is in a better place than he was a couple years ago, man. He talks about it. If there's one, he talks about how his religion helped him and everything like that. And I'm glad that he found something that's going to help him be a successful person. He also talked about how he had to take accountability and really look at his mental health and actually address his mental health struggles on a regular basis, because he wasn't doing that before. He was, getting drunk, having sex with random chicks and all that kind of stuff, cheating on his wife and getting high all the time, and he's a better guy now, and it shows in his fighting. So Tyson Fury getting the most money he has ever made up front on this bout for an interim heavyweight championship, because Anthony Joshua still ducking people. But yeah, somehow Fury has a deal where he gets like 80% of the initial bid, which is crazy somehow. But yeah, he out here getting rich. That's what we talking money. He getting $32 million to show up. I don't know too many jobs where one day at work can even get you $32 million, let alone one where you start off at $32 million with the potential to get pretty damn close to $100 million. So, and a lot of people like Tyson Fury. A lot of people watch his fights. A lot of people like his get down, and people in the fight world loved him a great white hope because Tyson Fury done beat down a lot of black people, and there's no way that people are not going to turn this into a black versus white thing, because that's what boxing has really been reduced down to at this point. Really funny. We got other stuff to move on to. Let's talk about, I used to give media suggestions almost on a weekly basis, but I realize now, like I did a huge diatribe on Hype House, which is the TikTok house that a lot of people have heard about, like the biggest one. There was a lot of there are a lot of other Hype Houses that existed, Hype House type things that existed. There was even one that was like hosted by Jake Paul, and apparently like one day everybody just packed up and left, and the dude that was left standing, apparently they like graffitied on the wall, not him, but like somebody graffitied on the wall, and he was just like, well, the house is empty, I'm gonna go home now, bye. And that was like a huge deal for people who follow these guys who literally live and put their lives on social media at all times and do fun and crazy things with their friends so that they can be, well, not even be popular, but like they record themselves living life. And to a lot of people, they doing stuff that they're never gonna be able to do. Like I watched that Hype House show. I thought it was pretty cool. I saw some young people that had a lot of pressure on their shoulders. A lot of pressure that, one, I've never had. I'm 29 years old, about to be 30, right? The kind of pressure that those dudes have dealt with, because they were living in a mansion for free, but it wasn't really for free. They had to go out there and make TikToks to be able to generate money for the Hype House account across like multiple social media platforms, plus keep their own clout up as the whole process went through, and really had to go out there and find a way to hit every single time. There was one kid in there, he talked about how, and if you listen to the pre-show, you probably heard this too, but there's one kid who talked about how his dad passed away, and it turned into a spiraling situation for his mother, who became an alcoholic, and she ended up becoming abusive to him, and it basically kicked him out of the house at like 16 or 17 or something like that. And him and his girlfriend were able to find out how to make it as Instagram and TikTok and YouTube influencers by living life, and they figured out how to do it, and they were in that mansion. And I was like, you done a lot you done 10 times more stuff than I did before I turned 20. So it was an interesting show. A lot of people took it as like a bunch of people with a bunch of privilege whining and crying, which there were kids who clearly came from the night, and I'm sure those are the kids that were in the show but didn't, like, you don't find out their whole backstory and stuff like that. But a lot of those guys were grinding to get to where they are, and a lot of people came from some pretty dark places that you don't think most social media influencers come from. But they don't talk about that because that doesn't get clicks. That's not interesting, right? Unless you monetize it a certain way. But yeah, anyway, media suggestions for this week. So there's two things. There's these two podcasts, and I think I've talked about I Am Athlete on this show before. It's one of the ones that I listen to pretty consistently, and I check out on a regular basis. I'm subscribed to it on YouTube. That's where I watch it while I'm doing show research and stuff for the show. But nonetheless, the I Am Athlete podcast has had a massive cash change going into season 3 or season 4, where it no longer has Channing Crowder. Yes, that Channing Crowder from the Dolphins, Fred Taylor from the Jacksonville Jaguars. It no longer has Ocho Cinco in it at all. It is the I Am Athlete podcast is now with Swaggy P from, that Swaggy P from the Lakers, Brandon Marshall, who was a part of the original I Am Athlete cast, and the other guy, sorry, I have to look him up because I have no idea who he is. I think he played defensive end in the league for like 6 years, which, hopefully means that he got his money, he took care of it, because he seems like a smart guy. It is Jared Odrick, who lives on a farm, according to the first episode of I Am Athlete that I saw with all of them together, where they talked to Antonio Brown. And if you want to hear Antonio Brown spew some bullshit about how he wasn't wrong for what he did when he walked off the field, took his pads off and all that kind of stuff like that, if you want to listen to that, you should go listen to the I Am Athlete podcast. I listen to it, and I try every single time I hear Antonio Brown, I try and take into account, and you can probably, if you listen to the show long enough, you've heard my opinion about Antonio Brown change a lot over the years. But I've tried to go in with an open mind every single time Antonio Brown does something that is completely out of pocket. And knowing his background in terms of homelessness, knowing his background in terms of being abandoned by his father, and then reconnecting with him, because if you can talk about the bravery that it takes to open up your heart to let your dad back into your life, I find that to be pretty tough as a person who got a tenuous relationship with his father. But nonetheless, I found it very interesting that he went out there and he basically was just like, I don't apologize for anything that I did. And he thinks he justified it all by talking about, like, he disrespected me first, so I walked out the field. He told me I'm cut. And I was like, maybe Antonio, we think about the things that led to a person that, for the most part, pretty reasonable. I will say this. We talked about, this is also the same week that he told Antonio Brown also was a part of the same week where Adrian Phillips, was it Adrian Phillips? No, Adrian Phillips is a defensive end for the Miami Dolphins, but one of the safeties for the Buccaneers got hit in the back of the head by Bruce Arians, right, for a mistake during a game. Or was that during a playoff game? He got hit in the back of the head by Bruce Arians while they were pulling people off of a fumble pile or something like that, and he kind of just like walked away, and people were like, that's out of control. You should never put your hands on another grown-ass man and expect to not get hit. And Bruce Arians, I mean, if you're being for real, like, if you want to talk about the most illogical person to try and hit, it's a person with a football helmet on and football pads to go along with it. And, you can go and watch the podcast. You can get your own opinion about it, because it's a lot of Antonio Brown talking over everyone when they try to have a legitimate conversation. When they try to have a legitimate conversation with him about why people are concerned about a person who did the equivalent of pulling off their work uniform shirt and walking out the front door at a job that a lot of people talk about you get paid pretty well for, doesn't mean you should be sacrificing who you are as a person. And he's got a lot of points to go along with that. But I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, if you should go watch it yourself and tell me what you think about it at FB_playbook or at the Ashton J. Tell me your thoughts on the Antonio Brown interview on the I Am Athlete podcast. I will also point out that it looks like it is going to be a rough transition for those guys, because Swaggy P and Jared Odrick, Antonio Brown immediately tried to shut Jared Odrick down because he felt like Jared comes off like he's he comes off like he's a hippie or kind of like a vibes guy, and seems like he's the smartest dude on that podcast, and no offense to anybody else, but he seemed to have more nuanced thought about a lot of the things that Antonio Brown was saying, despite the fact that he actually disagreed with everything that he was saying, right? Brandon Marshall was trying to give off this vibe that he's like trying to be the football Oprah. Like, he said that multiple times. I thought that was strange, but if you're going to aspire to be anyone, aspire to be the greatest of all time, I guess. But yeah, I didn't like the way that podcast went down. They are interviewing, or they have an interview in the can with Arian Foster. I'm looking forward to, because anytime I can get a chance to listen to Arian Foster, I enjoy that a lot. But I would definitely suggest to you check out the Pivot Movement podcast. It has, as you can see here, has Ryan Clark basically replacing Brandon Marshall, and it's amazing. They had an episode today that released with Taylor Lewan, and it was hilarious. Ryan Clark not only asked some really tough questions, but said some really mean things to Taylor Lewan, and Taylor Lewan won because he is a podcast host himself. Shout out to The Boys! I don't listen to that show anymore because it supports Barstool, and just a little too much for me. But nonetheless, it's a great podcast. You should definitely check it out. And you should definitely check it out. You should check out the Pivot Movement. Just check out The Boys as well. Bussin' with the Boys is the name of the podcast. And it's him and Will Compton. They talk about the Tennessee Titans' utter failure in the playoffs. They talk about, like, what's it like for an offensive lineman to know that he's got the best running back, or like one of the biggest running backs in the NFL, because Ryan Clark does not think that Derrick Henry is the best running back in the NFL, which, there's some arguments to be made there, despite the fact that, like, Derrick Henry is massively productive and continues to be. He had beef with that. Taylor Lewan disagreed. Fred Taylor, who's a former Jaguars player, was kind of like staring down Taylor Lewan the whole time, even though Fred Taylor usually has some great insight on a lot of stuff. And then Channing Crowder was really funny. They had like a really dumb conversation about crabs. At the end of the show, they had a conversation. I genuinely laughed out loud 4 times in the course of that podcast, and I missed the first like 15 minutes of it because I was doing something else. Check it out. It is worth the watch and the listen. Check out this episode that's currently on your screen, Ocho Talks AB. It's about Ocho Cinco. It's really not even about Antonio Brown. It's more of getting Ocho Cinco, Fred Taylor, Channing Crowder back together to talk about like what happened with the podcast, and then of course it's Chad Ocho Cinco saying like the out of pocket shit that he says all the time. Like he has it's him saying the wild stuff that he says all the time. It is worth a listen. It is part stupidity, part football player, very much so a genuine conversation between all those guys, and that's what I think is appreciated the most. They do have a podcast called like The Truth is the name of the episode, and it is about what happened. It doesn't have Chad Ochocinco on it because he was like with his wife / girlfriend, or I think it's fiance, and they were having a kid, and he didn't want to like leave or whatever, even though Ochocinco is apparently unvaccinated. So yeah, exactly. But yeah, definitely worth checking it out. I think the Pivot podcast has the few episodes I've seen already much better than I Am Athlete, and I Am Athlete is a really good show. So that's good to see former players out there doing high quality podcasts, because a lot of the time you talk about like stuff with All the Smoke. I used to be a huge fan of All the Smoke until the stuff with Deshaun Jackson happened, and Steven Jackson, came out in massive support of Deshaun Jackson because he saw a black man being attacked by a lot of people, right? And he saw a black man being attacked by a lot of white presenting people, Jewish people, right? And he went out to bat for him and all that kind of stuff like that, even though like factually what Deshaun Jackson said was wrong. And I don't know if Deshaun Jackson's a better player, or I don't know if he's a better person, because I know that there was a situation where Julian Edelman was like, I'm reconnecting with my Jewish heritage and everything like that, and I would love for us to be able to understand and learn about Jewish communities together. I don't know if that ever actually happened or anything like that, but that's one of the big reasons I don't listen to All the Smoke. I don't know if Steven Jackson was accurate in what he said. He also, I found this stuff with Kwame Brown really funny, and of course I side with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes on that situation because Kwame Brown is hardcore MAGA, and if there was, I don't know, you tell me which one's the better choice to make. Anyway, better side to side on. I've made my choice. I've made my side. That's all I'll say about that. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we take another hydration break, and when we come back, we'll finish up the show. We'll talk about some things that have been going on in the NFL, in particular about new hires, in terms of people getting new jobs, people moving around, all that kind of stuff like that. Some really cool stories to be told because the Ravens hired somebody very, very interesting as their new defensive coordinator, somebody who's in the family, essentially. The Harbaughs have a really interesting connection with like black people in general, because they call Brian Flores their brother, and they mean it like in terms of family, not like, oh, he's a black guy, hey, what's up, brother, all that kind of jazz. Anyway, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about that in football. We'll talk about more football. Who would have thought?